accountability in their investigation to maintain their integrity. Now joining us this morning to discuss this controversy and what the implications are, we have Gloria Edukere, communications consultant. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. And we also have legal practitioner Douglas Ogbankwa joining us. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ogbankwa. I'll begin with you. These are strong allegations that have been made by Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. We've seen reactions and counter-reactions from the wife of the Senate President to the husband of Senator Natasha, who's spoken up in her defense, from her lawyers also writing letters to the wife of the Senate President asking her to sit this one out, and that the Senate President has a right to speak for himself. So now we haven't heard anything yet from the camp of the Senate President. What does this mean? We know that silence does not necessarily imply consent, or shouldn't mean that he's agreeing that he has done this. But the fact that he hasn't said anything, does it speak to maybe the implication, any stronger implications that we should be maybe considering?
Thank you very much. The thing is that people usually have some strategy the way conduct their matters. Looking at this issue from a very dispassionate point of view, I would say that the Senate President may have his own strategy of trying to handle this matter. Perhaps asking his spouse to contend with the Senator Natasha Akpoti could be a way of handling the matter, woman to woman. But if you were to ask me about, will I say, the authenticity or otherwise of the claim, I seem to have my doubts. And that is brought particularly because of the antecedents of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. If you look at what the trail of activities, political activities, you will see several claims of she accusing different people of sexual harassment.
Can you name some of them, please? Can you name some of these people?
We have claims. We have claims in the media. We've seen allegedly Yaya Bello, Renem Omokri. We even had an issue, though they've come to debunk the letter. There was a letter that was written by a senior advocate of Nigeria, written to the husband, saying that about issues of breach of promise to marriage. So there seems to be a lot of claims by her of being sexually harassed. And the question you ask yourself is she the only female politician in Nigeria?
I'd like to come in here.
She's the only one that this story seems to resonate around. So which I, as a person, I seem to have my doubts about the authenticity or otherwise, the authenticity of her claim. Because it seems to, look at her conversation on your sister television station, that when the husband was with her, walking slowly behind. And after the alleged advances were made, you did not tell your husband, on our own admission, that day, there was even stories of "don't you trust me" and all that. So it doesn't really add up, as far as I'm concerned. I process facts for a living, and I know she's also a lawyer, but looking at the whole scenario, I don't think that she's telling the truth.
Okay, in the same light, you said you process facts for a living. So it's a fact that in 2020, the former NDDC boss, she said this on camera, that Senator Akpabio made sexual advances on her person, and she had to give him a dirty slap. This is, it's verifiable fact. So could we go the same way and say, somebody has accused him of sexual harassment in the past? He came out on national television to make these claims. That makes him guilty. Let's also look at the integrity of the Nigerian Senate. This has gone beyond the person of Godswill Akpabio. We're looking at the Senate as an institution. I would like to bring in our second guest here. What do you think should be done now? Because the reactions from other quarters, is it time for the Senate to institute a probe into this matter, or should we consider it an in-house issue?
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. So I'd say that I think that it is time for the Senate to step in here, especially because this is now gone beyond just an in-house issue. It's now more or less like a gender issue. It's a very sensitive topic, and I do know that the Senate is already working behind the scenes to ensure that there's a solution to this, or that there's some sort of communication around this. But at the same time, I do think that it is best to speak on matters as sensitive as this, especially because it has been a recurring thing, right? Not just for the Senate House, but in other places. And this is not just limited to only politics, okay? And I do feel like a next step for this should be to actually do proper investigation, right? So that we are not just saying, oh, there are stories, there are claims, there are allegations and accusations, but there's concrete evidence to show that this happened, this is when it happened, and if the two parties need to have a sit down to have conversations regarding this, then fine.
Douglas, don't you seem to agree with Gloria as opposed to determining the validity or the correctness of Natasha's claims, that there should be proper investigation to determine who's speaking the truth, what the true position is, rather than casting aspersions on, her claim? Because what we find, and the fear is that in many situations, when women complain about being sexually abused, they're not listened to. Society often shuts them down and makes it look like, we haven't really made a lot of progress against, in the fight against sexual abuse. So it's a bit worrying to hear you say that you do not believe her when she hasn't even been tried, or she hasn't been brought before a court of competent jurisdiction, or we don't have the facts, an investigation hasn't been called for. I should think that might, that should be the proper steps as opposed to us deciding who may or may not be correct. What do you think? Why are you holding brief for Akpabio?
I'm very sure you would have been happy if I said I believe that, right? Now, you see, it's actually my opinion. It doesn't make it whether otherwise, So my point really is that the only way we can ascertain the veracity or otherwise of this claim is through a proper investigation. And you don't just come and you make wide allegations without proof.
They say they have proof. Her lawyers say that they have proof. Her lawyers
show some chat, perhaps videos, perhaps should have been able to show some evidence to show that there was actually sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is not something that you do without some kind of evidence. I personally, I am against any form of sexual harassment as a person. That is why we at the NBA, we have the NBA sexual harassment policy. And any lawyer that knows his onions would definitely follow the NBA sexual harassment policy. I want to tell you, why I particularly said what I said is because there seems to be a mob action going on online. Nigerians like following the bandwagon effects. We like it when the story is trending and we are part of the crowd that follows the story. I beg to differ. And that is why I am joining my friend Gloria to ask that there should be a thorough investigation into this matter. Let everybody come with his or her evidence to show if indeed that Senator Natasha can show that Senator Akpabio assaulted her sexually or sexually harassed her. I would come to national TV to apologize to her. But as I stand right here, I do not believe her. And I have a right to say I don't believe her.
Do you believe, Joy, do you believe the former NDDC boss, Joy Nunye, who said, I slapped him, I'm an Ogoni woman. He came up to me and I gave him a dirty slap. The Akpabio camp never denied that happened. His lawyers never wrote to her. There was no statement. There was no investigation. Right? Do you believe that in the same light? Do you believe her statement that she came up on me and I gave him a dirty slap?
Well, you are saying that Akpabio did not deny it, but then I saw a statement from his office saying that nothing like that happened. And you see, Oscar Wilde said something. He said, everything is in life is all about sex, but sex is all about power. What I can tell you that these things are more than that meets the eyes. There are deep issues involved in these matters, and nobody's coming to tell us the truth. People are just coming to push their truths, according to Natasha. Let me say my truth. And your truth may not be Akpabio's truth. My truth might not be Gloria's truth. So the truth of the matter is that there are deep issues involved. If you understand the inner workings of the Abuja community, a lot goes on there. And you coming on to national TV to make such very wealthy allegations without any proof, I find it very, very detestable. It's unacceptable. You should come with some proof. When they accused a House of Rep member of collecting money, you could see the conversation between that House of Rep member and the person he collected the money from on national TV. That is what I want Senator Akpoti to show us.
Can I ask a question?
Made advances on you. It is not so easy for you to say it's a gender issue that you shut down people that cry out when it comes to sexual harassment. At times, we really don't know who the victim is right here. Because if you accuse a man of sexually harassing you, and you don't have proof, who then is the victim?
You and I know that in conversations of sexual assault, those are some of the hardest things to prove. For example, rape that would require corroboration is the hardest to prove because there are hardly people there when the actions are occurring. But yes, her team have said that they have proof. And we're hoping that in the coming days, they would be subject to, a panel will be put together and that there will be proper investigation. But if she does have proof, and the proof does point to the fact that this happened, do you think any actions will be taken? And I ask this because we are in a country where a member, a sitting legislator at the time, assaulted someone in a sex toy shop.
Senator Elisha Abo of Adamawa
And it was like nothing happened. A lot of noise on this, in social media, and everything went back to normal until he had the nerve to start speaking up against some of the things happening in the house before his time was up. But it wasn't because he assaulted someone. We've seen other lawmakers assaulted. We saw the lawmaker who assaulted a taxi driver. So do you really believe that if she does have evidence that points to the fact that he actually did it, that anything will be done?
Absolutely. The senator that assaulted the sex toys, the young lady, was convicted. Many Nigerians didn't follow up the story. He was convicted. The senator that assaulted the Uber driver was arraigned in court.
I'm asking in terms of also their position in the House. Conviction or not, he was still a member of the House, right? It didn't stop him.
Until he lost the election.
Exactly. It didn't stop him from participating in Nigeria's politics. So does it really affect their political influence? All right, unfortunately, we're not able to speak to him. I don't know if we have...
I would like to ask Gloria a question. I mean, Gloria, as a young Nigerian woman looking at this, what sort of message does this send to aspiring young women who might want to throw their hat into the murky waters of Nigerian politics? And what should be done to protect to give women more rights, not just in the political sphere, but also in the workplace? Because so many men don't even know that, making lewd comments about women could be translated as sexual harassment.
Thank you very much. So I would say that it is very important to create very inclusive spaces for women to thrive, and not just limited to politics again, right? Because if we're not able to solve some of these issues that we see happening around us now, what is the criteria? What is the message that we're passing to other people is that we can't actually solve our problems. That's what it means. And we have a habit of always dismissing things in Nigeria. We have that habit of always sweeping things under the carpets, right? And it seems like the news is trending for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and after that, it becomes a reference point in the future, and the case was dismissed, right? It doesn't encourage participation. It doesn't encourage female participation in politics. It doesn't encourage women to actually stand up and fight for their rights. because they do have reference points to show that, oh, this person did it in the past and nothing was done about it. So why would I speak up if I have an issue like this?
Right.
Why would I speak up if something like this happens to my daughter? And I'd like to say that for all the men out there, sometimes it is easy for us to take sides, right? But at the same time, how about you look at it from a very introspective perspective? If this happened to my daughter, if this happened to my sister, if this happened to a female friend around me, would I react the same way? Would I respond the same way that I'm responding right now? And so we need to do better. We need to do better because we're all striving for gender equality. We all want to have an equal world. We want a world where women are able to thrive. And for women to be able to thrive, they need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to be understood. And matters like this are very sensitive. We need to delve into these matters to ensure that there is credibility, there is authenticity, and at the end of the day, we're able to validate women in the way that they need to be validated to encourage other women participation as well. Thank you.
A great way to kick us off into International Women's Month. Gloria, Edukere, thank you very much for joining us this morning on the show. Unfortunately, we could not wrap up the conversation with Douglas Ogbankwa, a legal practitioner. Thank you as well for joining us. We wish you a wonderful rest of the day.